What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. One of my lovely subscribers brought to my attention in my last video that we unfortunately will not be getting a 911 episode this week, which is really upsetting because they're making us wait for more Tevin content, but that is totally fine. You know, I'm patient. I'm fine with waiting. So while we're on this kind of break, I kind of wanted to take the opportunity to bring up something that sparked a conversation in my comments in my last review. So towards the end of my video, I mentioned that I was seeing a lot more Tommy hate across my specifically TikTok platform. This kind of resonated with a lot of people because you guys were in my comments saying like, yeah, the fandom is getting really toxic, specifically a lot of buddy shippers. And I'm not gonna say all buddy shippers because I believe that you can be a buddy shipper and still accept this new relationship that Buck is in. So I'm gonna refer to them as toxic buddy shippers. Yeah, you guys were saying a lot of toxic buddy shippers were being kind of disrespectful towards Tommy and just the relationship in general, which in my opinion, like, I'm not gonna, because if I see something like Tommy related that I don't like or I don't agree with, I don't go in the comments and like attack that person. I just scroll. But in my opinion, it kind of makes the fandom less fun in a way, because this new relationship that Buck is in is supposed to be new and exciting and like a new thing for Buck, and it makes me really excited to see Buck go through this with Tommy. That's why I love them together so much. But when you have people kind of in your ear being like, this relationship sucks, Tommy's ugly, I don't like him, he's toxic, he's this and that, it makes it a little less fun. And it's like you're being a Debbie Downer, because I'm like, God, why can't you just be happy for him? Like, you know what I mean? And I'm not here to tell you who you can and can't ship. Not at all. If you still want to ship Buck and Eddie, by all means, be my guest. If you want to ship Buck and Tommy, of course, be my guest. But I feel like you can do that in a more respectful way than attacking a relatively innocent character. Now, when I say innocent character, a lot of people are going to be like, well, Tommy's not innocent, like his past actions speak for themselves, and we are going to get into that. And there's a lot of things that I want to touch on today, so I kind of just want to put my own opinions and theories out there, and I want to hear you guys' opinions and theories too. If I say something that resonates with you or you have your own theories, please let me know. And once again, I do not discriminate anyone who watches, so if you are a Tommy, if you're a Tevin shipper, you are welcome. If you're a buddy shipper, you are welcome. I never want to exclude anybody just because they have an opinion that I don't agree with. That's not having a proper discussion. That is just attacking someone for having their own opinion, which is not what I'm about. So I will always say this. I have said this from the beginning, and I will always say this. No matter who you ship, if you're one or the other or both, you like both ships, you are welcome here, and you are allowed to share your opinion in a respectful way. If you want to share your opinion and you're going to be disrespectful just because I don't agree with something you don't agree with, you really don't have to comment. I can't stop you from commenting, but it's not an effective way to share your opinion. With that being said, I have a lot that I want to touch on today, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. So, when I first started doing these 911 reviews, I went back and referenced my old videos, and in my first 911 review, I mentioned that a big reason why I started watching this show again was because I was getting a lot of buddy content on my TikTok page. And at the time, I didn't know what their relationship status was. I didn't know if they were established. I didn't know if this was just like a ship. I didn't know. So it kind of piqued my interest, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna start watching the show again. So once I started the show, I was a deep buddy shipper, just like a lot of you guys were. I saw the chemistry and connection that Buck and Eddie had, and I was like, yeah, this can totally work, because they have great chemistry. Basically raised Christopher together. So there was a lot of things that they shared and did together that made me think they're perfect for each other. This could totally work out if the writers drove it in that direction. And there were scenes that I saw, and I'll give you a specific example. There were scenes that I saw that I was looking at them like, oh, like this is, like there's no way they're not gonna put them together. One example is the "you want to go for the title" scene. I'm sure a lot of you know what I'm talking about, but if I can find it, I'll put it in here.
Like, I'm just saying, you were pretty pissed. I thought for sure that day in the grocery store you were gonna take a swing at me.
Not that you didn't deserve it, but I wouldn't do that. I'm blipping or something.
I'd still take it.
You think so?
I know. You wanna go for the title?
I still have no explanation for that scene. Even now, I'm just like, that scene was really, it carried a lot of sexual tension, I think. So I'm not gonna sit here and say that now that I'm a Tevin shipper, there's never been evidence that Buddy could have potentially happened. There absolutely was. I think so. Some people aren't gonna think that. Some people are gonna think I've never seen them being like anything but friends, and that's fine too. So one of the things I wanted to touch on when it comes to Tommy is a lot of the Tommy hate that I see on TikTok. A lot of it revolves around his looks and things like that, and people calling him ugly and things like that. And I can't tell you you're wrong, because that's your opinion, that's your preference. If you think he's ugly, that's just you. Me personally, I do not think that. I think Tommy is very attractive. But another thing that I saw when it comes to Tommy hate is people calling him racist and misogynistic. And I'm pretty sure I know where these accusations come from. So we're gonna touch on that today, because a lot of people say that people like to defend Tommy and his behavior and like he's not a good person. And I don't know about you, but I will never defend someone when it comes to their racist and misogynistic behavior. Ever. So we're gonna go ahead and jump into that and talk about where those accusations, I put accusations in quotation marks because technically to a certain extent they are true, but we're gonna go ahead and get into it. Technically, we're first introduced to Tommy in Hen's episode because it comes before Chimney's, but I'm going to put it in reverse order and talk about Chimney's episode first because Chimney technically joined the station before Hen. So we are introduced to Tommy in Chimney Begins. There's this specific scene that I know people think about a lot when Chimney first went to the station and he goes upstairs and they're having Chinese for lunch, dinner, whatever it is. And he goes in and he's going to introduce himself. And Tommy looks at Chimney and looks at Eli and he's like, oh, did you forget to, tip the delivery boy? Very blatantly racist. And I would also like to, before I move on with this, I would also like to mention that this also, a lot of you should know, this was also under, the firehouse was also under the authority of Gerard. I think that says a lot already, but we're gonna keep going. I have a theory when it comes to this, and this is not me defending Tommy in any shape, way, or form. I believe that what he said, he should be held accountable for that. I think he should be. Now, when it comes to the misogynistic claims, I'm assuming that this comes from Hen Begins, her episode. Now, at first when I saw this, I was not sure where that was coming from when it came to this episode, because I was like, I don't think he was ever really misogynistic towards her. And then I rewatched the episode and I'm like, okay, yeah, he did have some misogynistic behavior towards Hen. Now, I have this theory. In the Hen Begins episode, when Hen first goes to the station, obviously off the bat Gerard is racist and misogynistic towards her. But in this scene where Hen is below the top level and they're all like kind of looking at her over the railing, we see Tommy come out and his face is totally clear of like judgment or anything like that. He just kind of smiles at her and he's like,
who's this? This is our new diversity hire.
For real?
His behavior doesn't change until Sal's comment. If we remember who Sal is, Sal also used to work at the 118 alongside with the rest of them. And there's heavy judgment in his tone. And it wasn't until after that comment was made by Sal that Tommy's behavior totally switched. Because in the next scene when they're having dinner or lunch or whatever it is, Chimney asks Hen, where are you from? And she's like, I'm from here, I'm from LA. And he's like, oh, I thought you would have been from the East Coast. And Hinton doesn't really know if this is a compliment or not, so she's like,
Thank you for the compliment.
New York bitchiness is a compliment?
Whoa, nobody said anything like that. Come on.
thank you for the compliment. And Tommy's exact words are, if New York bitchiness is a compliment. I believe that to be a misogynistic comment. It can come across as a misogynistic comment. Also, throughout Hen's episode, Gerard is very heavily misogynistic towards Hen, and nobody really stands up for her. Because I believe nobody really knows how to when it comes to Gerard. Like, we know Gerard. Gerard is quite literally insufferable. So I feel like everyone would just rather ignore his behavior than try to stand up to him, because at the end of the day, he is their captain. Now, I stand on what I said when I said I do not defend people when it comes to racist and or misogynistic behavior. But I do have a theory on why Tommy might have been acting like this, and he's had a total switch over now in recent seasons. One of those reasons, and I would love to introduce toxic buddy shippers to the term character development. This occurs when a character is, I don't know, like has a bad personality or is mean or a bully or any type of TV show or movie, and as the TV show and or movie progresses, they change their ways for the better. This is a thing that Tommy has clearly went through. But on a deeper level, I believe that Tommy wasn't able to be his true self under the authority of Gerard, along with all of the rest of the men he worked with in that fire station. Now, I would like you to remember, during this time, when Chimney and Hen joined, this is when they first started recruiting women to be firefighters. So this whole time, while he's a firefighter under Gerard, it's a male-dominant occupation. So this whole firehouse is full of toxic masculinity, and they enable each other in their bad behavior. Unfortunately, this is something we see a lot when it comes to men. And something else we see in men, and they don't like to admit it, but men crave male validation. So they're obviously going to enable each other in their bad behaviors, whether they know it's right or wrong. And of course, eventually at the end of each episode, they come to a resolve and they accept them into the firehouse because they almost have to prove they're trustworthy to be a part of the pack. Tommy also confirms this in season 7. In one of the later episodes when he was having dinner with Buck at Buck's apartment, he says that the 118 was a very regressive environment and that he was also still figuring himself out. Do you think that while under the authority of Gerard and also having all these toxic men around him, that he would have been able to like change his ways for the better, especially with these men enabling his bad behavior? Now, I'm not defending him because I still think that the comments he made towards them and the actions that he did were wrong. Absolutely. He was totally racist and misogynistic, and I don't doubt that. I'm really not trying to defend him in that. But I also see it from the other side of what was he struggling with internally that might have caused him to act this way. Because clearly he's made a total turnover in recent seasons. So I'm like, clearly there was something hidden underneath that we didn't see. And I think a lot of toxic buddy shippers just see it surface level and they don't go deeper and be like, okay, well, what was he dealing with? And we still don't know a lot about Tommy's past. But one thing we did learn in season 7 is Tommy says that Gerard was like having the dad he already had.
My dad and I don't really talk. And when I was at the 118, I had Gerard, which did not make me a better person. Come to think of it, Captain Gerard was like having the dad I already had.
So he is also used to Gerard's behavior even from a young age. So his home life wasn't a safe environment for him to explore himself and figure himself out. He didn't start figuring himself out until he left the 118. And by this time, when he joined Harbor, he was probably in his 30s. So, I mean, yeah, I agree that him being racist towards Chimney and misogynistic towards Hen was definitely wrong. But clearly now, they have all put their differences behind them and they are all friends. So the argument that he is racist and misogynistic is wrong because I don't think he is those things now. I think he was back then. Once again, I bring up the term character development. Thank you. Now, someone else brought something up in my comments in my last video, and they said that Buck and Eddie's exes have always gotten hate from the fandom. And this is true, and I'm glad you brought this to my attention, because this is in fact true, because all of their past relationships have been women. And I have openly expressed my dislike for Taylor, not just because she was Buck's girlfriend, but because she was trying to use him and his job to boost herself up in her own career, which is wild to me. But yeah, I have seen that in past, things on TikTok, where a lot of Eddie and Buck's exes have gotten hate from the fandom. This is very much true. People hated Marisol, people hated Abby, people hated Taylor, people hated all these past exes. So there's always gonna be a way for the fandom to find something to hate about their exes. You know what I mean? And luckily, in the coming episodes, we will learn a bit more. I've heard we will learn a bit more about Tommy's past. Really excited about that. But just when it comes to that whole thing of the racist, misogynistic accusations, I will never defend him in that. I will never say, well, it was justified, because it really wasn't. And it's something we see a lot in real life, where men will make racist, misogynistic jokes when they're with their boys because they think it's funny, and they crave male validation. And these are the people he worked with. You know what I mean? So he wasn't gonna say something to get on the bad side of Gerard. It would literally make him miserable. But who's to say he wasn't already miserable during that? During trying to figure himself out in such a regressive, homophobic, racist environment. Because clearly he's not those things now. At all. You know what I mean? He's friends with Hen and Chimney and pretty much the rest of the 118. So, and I don't think that the 118, specifically Eddie, would be friends with him if he was those things. I don't think he would allow Buck to date this man if he was those things. I truly think that Eddie would tell him, hey, this guy's kind of weird. He's got some weird behavior going on. I don't think you should do it. You know what I mean? So I just think a lot of people are really, really hard on Tommy for his past mistakes. But once again, people grow and change and do things better themselves as they grow. Obviously, people are still gonna hate because they don't like Tommy, but I think the main reason why y'all don't like Tommy is simply because you didn't get what you really wanted, which is Buck with Eddie. Now let's talk about that really quickly. Now, I said this in one of my past reviews, and I'll say it again. I don't think it's gonna happen at all. And if it did, that would be, I think, a mistake. It would feel forced. It would ruin their friendship, I think. It would just be really strange to put them together at this point. So, if we want to talk about Eddie, I said this in season 7. In season 7, he was going through a lot. Clearly in season 7, he's still mourning his dead wife. You know what I mean? So I'm like, how could this man... I don't think Eddie's gay. A lot of you think that he's secretly gay and he hasn't figured it out yet, but I'm like, I don't think so. And then in season 8, he's dealing with Christopher not being there. Christopher's still upset with him over what happened in season 7. So I'm just like, Eddie has so much going on. And he still has yet to get the help he needed when it comes to this situation and past situations. And do I think Eddie's gonna need Buck during this difficult time in his life? Yes, he's going to need him as a friend. He doesn't need him as a boyfriend or a crush. You know what I mean? That would complicate things more. Imagine going through all of this as Eddie. Imagine going through still mourning your wife, missing your kid because he's living with your parents, and then on top of that, having to deal with the crisis of questioning your sexuality. Oh yeah, just add another thing onto his plate, why don't you? This is actually wild that some of y'all are just like, oh my god, he's gay. And you can think that. You can think that he's uncannonly gay. I'm not saying you can't. But if you're thinking, oh my god, he is actually gonna canon come out as gay, I fear you may be a little delusional, babe. And that is, I'm not saying that in like a mean way, but I'm saying like, how can you realistically think that? Sure, I think that Buck and Eddie had chemistry in the past, but they are clearly now steering away from that. That would be a lot. If he all of a sudden just started questioning his sexuality on top of other things. Interesting. So clearly Eddie is not mentally stable enough to have a relationship with anyone right now. Because if we really think about it, the stuff that happened with Kim in season 7 just happened. I mean, obviously we don't know the exact timeline, but like, it has to be like a few months. It hasn't been a full year, I'm pretty sure. So it has to be months since that has happened. And he still has yet to get the help that he really needs. So no, I do not think that Buddy is going to happen, because from a realistic standpoint. Now, some of the claims y'all be making when it comes to Eddie and Buck and Tommy is just ridiculous. And when I see them, I just have to laugh, because I'm like, are we looking at the same thing? Ever since Tommy has entered the picture as Buck's love interest, when Eddie, Buck, and Tommy are in a scene together, 9 times out of 10, I'll go to the comments and someone will be like, Eddie was so jealous. We're clearly not looking at the same thing. I'll give you an example. During the bachelorette party, Tommy obviously was invited by Buck to come. He came. And he goes to hug Evan or Buck or whatever. And Eddie turns around and looks at them and he's like, I didn't know you could bring a date to a bachelorette party. And to me, I did not register that as jealousy. Now, like I said, everyone is entitled to their own opinion. If you think that he was jealous in that moment, by all means, you can think that. But there's just, the more that Buck and Tommy's relationship progresses, the more outrageous the claims become. I don't want to talk too much about episode 5 yet, because I want to wait for the review, but I'll give you one more example from a recent episode. And this is the most ridiculous claim I've ever heard in my life. If you've seen episode 5, you know that Buck got his arm dislocated. His left arm got dislocated. So he went to the hospital and it got dislocated on shift while he was on duty. He gets sent to the hospital. They send Eddie with him. One, Eddie is on shift with him, so why not send him? I mean, there could be so many reasons why they sent Eddie. Eddie was on shift with him. Eddie's his best friend. Eddie wanted to go. Eddie was like, I'll just go with him. You know what I mean? So he most likely was transported to the hospital with Buck. When we see Buck in the hospital, he's in his room. They're relocating his shoulder and Eddie is sitting in the room with him. After they relocate his shoulder, Tommy comes in and is like, oh, I came right after my shift. Now, some of these claims that people, and once again, I can't tell if they are joking or if they're being dead serious, but one of the claims was like, oh my God, not Tommy having to wear a visitor's badge and Eddie not. What are we talking about? He was transported to the hospital with him. Why would he need a visitor's badge? Tommy comes in after his shift. They don't know why he's there. They're like, who are you here to visit? Oh, I'm here to visit Evan Buckley, my boyfriend. Okay, we're gonna register you as a visitor and you have to wear this so everyone knows you were a visitor. Oh my God, so simple. People saying that, oh my God, not Eddie sitting in the room with him. Let me ask you something. If your best friend was admitted into the hospital and you traveled with them, no matter how minor or major the injury may be, are you gonna see your friend get transferred into a room and be like, okay, I'll just wait out here in the waiting room? When the people specifically told you, oh, you can sit in here with him, are you gonna be like, no, it's okay, I'll wait in the waiting room? Your best friend. Or would you be like, okay, and sit in the room with them? Because so many, I saw people being like, oh, he didn't have to stay in the room, but he did. Yeah, that's his best friend? Question mark? Like, what are we doing? The way that toxic buddy shippers reach for reasons is, it's laughable to me, honestly, because I'm like, there's such simple answers to these, and y'all are like, reaching. I don't know. It's just really interesting to me. Also, I'll give you another one. I don't have a specific example for this one because I've yet to see this. But the amount of people that I've seen say that Buck is disgusted by Tommy. First of all, disgusted is insane. And I can't, for the love of God, figure out what they're talking about when they're like, oh my God, Buck is so disgusted by Tommy. Like, he does not want him there. And I'm like, are we watching the same thing? What are you talking about? I would love for someone to please point out at what point you think Buck was disgusted by Tommy. Because if Buck didn't want Tommy there, he wouldn't have called him and said, hey. Or he would have, depending on who called him, it could have been Buck, it could have been Eddie. He would have told Eddie, hey, you don't have to call Tommy. Or he just wouldn't have brought it up. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. That's why I'm saying, sometimes I think a lot of buddy shippers are joking. But at the same time, like, they sound so serious when they say it. So, I'm like, I'm not sure where this is coming from. Like, I really don't know. I hope I'm getting my point across because I've been thinking about this ever since I uploaded my last video. And I was like, I have to do a video on this. Because the amount of hate is insane for someone who is such a sweet character and is clearly treating Buck so well. Because a lot of toxic buddy shippers are trying to pin Tommy as this toxic, not interested in Buck, passive, aggressive guy. And each time an episode comes out with Buck and Tommy, it just proves them even further wrong. Because I'm not gonna lie, whenever I see stuff come out about Buck and Tommy, I low-key have a panic attack. Because I see a lot of people being like, oh my God, they're gonna have an argument. Oh my God, something's gonna happen. And I'm like sitting here so scared, like, oh my God, like, are they actually gonna break them up? And then I see the episode and I'm like, I don't know. Like, y'all make me laugh. And two more things that I wanted to bring up when it comes to Tommy is, one, Tommy is Bobby approved. And I think that says a lot because if we remember in season 7, Bobby goes to Buck at the end of a shift and he asks him about Tommy. And we remember that Buck was really nervous about Bobby's opinion of Tommy because they hadn't talked about it. And, Bobby was like,
I don't know what's there to talk about. Tommy's good people. He's good for you.
How do you know that?
Because we haven't had to talk about it.
So obviously, and Bobby, we know Bobby cares deeply about Buck. And if Bobby thought that Tommy was not good for him, he would have told him. He's done that for his other teammates. Remember when Chimney was dating Tatiana? Bobby was the first one to tell him, I don't think she's good for you at all. So I don't think, obviously he's gonna let Buck make his own decisions because Buck is a grown man. But also, Bobby knows Tommy. Tommy used to work under Bobby. So I think if Buck thought something was wrong with Tommy or he wasn't a good fit for Buck, I think he would have told him. You know what I mean? I think he would have said something to Buck, to be really honest with you. Also, another scene that I forgot about because it's a deleted scene is during the awards ceremony in season 7 when Hen and Karen go up to Tommy to ask him about his intentions with Buck. Obviously Tommy is joking around with them and he's like not avoiding the question because I saw a lot of you being like, oh, his answers were lacking, and I'm like, he's just joking. Like, he can't joke anymore. But at the end of the day, he does answer the question and he's like,
We are taking it very slow. In fact, I'm letting him set the pace. I'm just trying to keep up.
oh, is that not a beautiful answer? Like, because he knows that this is Buck's first male relationship, which, yes, is in fact a big deal. And he's like, I don't want to force you into anything that you don't think you're ready for. which is the whole reason why when they had their first date, he was going to step away because he thought Evan wasn't ready and he didn't want to force him into anything that he thought he wasn't ready for. So throughout this whole relationship or progression into a relationship, Tommy has been the most considerate partner that Buck has had ever. Out of all of his past relationships, Tommy has been the most considerate and like patient. So yeah, when I say I don't know where all the Tommy hate comes from, I truly don't. Other than the fact that buddy shippers, toxic buddy shippers, are just mad because they didn't get what they wanted. It's absolutely crazy to me. I sound mad, but I'm not. I'm just like baffled at like the way people would bash this sweet innocent character just because Buck didn't end up with the person you wanted him to end up with. That is pretty much all I wanted to touch on. Yeah, the Tommy hate gets, and I try to stay off of that side of TikTok, which I've done a relatively good job of doing, but sometimes every now and then it comes up on my For You page. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the whole Tommy hate situation. As you guys know, and a lot of you guys who follow me feel the same way, I love Tommy. I love Buck and Tommy's relationship. I love Eddie. I think he's a great friend. I don't think they're gonna end up together. Sorry to anyone who is like, I'm crushing your dreams right now. I apologize. So anyone, and I feel like it's most of the time a joke, but for people being like, Buddy in season 8, I'm like, wow. So let me know what you guys think about this whole situation. This is just a conversation I wanted to have. I wanted to make a whole video on it just because I had so much to address. But these are my thoughts, theories, and opinions. Please let me know what yours are. As I have said and will always say, I don't care who you ship. I don't care if you're Tevin, Buddy, or both. You have the right to have your own opinion. If you would like to share yours, I'm willing to read it. But please make it respectful, because there is no reason to be disrespectful in this sense. We're just having a discussion. And someone thanked me in my last video for making this a safe space for, you know, Tevin and Buddy shippers to have a conversation, and that's really all I want. I'm not here to bash anybody for their opinion or tell you your opinion is wrong, because that is quite literally impossible. But, you know, there's always respectful ways to go about things. I still save Buddy edits because I think they're cute. You know, it's not like I'm completely against Buddy. I'm just like, I love what Buck has right now, and he seems very happy, and this is the best relationship he's ever had, and I'm just really happy for him. So, with that being said, I cannot wait for the next episode to come out. I saw episode 5. I'm absolutely in love. I'm about to go rewatch it after I film this, but so glad we're finally getting new Tevin content. I'm really excited for the next one because we're supposed to be diving deeper into the relationship, and I'm just really excited to review it for you guys so I can get your opinions on it as well. That's pretty much it for this video. If you guys liked it, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Like I said, your opinions on whatever I said, I would love to hear them. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!